Hello, this is ICO Talk TV. My name is Yelena, and my guest today is Travis Roe, CEO of Assistive Reality Project. Hello, Travis. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, Elena. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, first of all, please tell us a few words about your project so that we can understand what is an assistive reality.
Sure. So our project really is looking at applications that are augmented reality applications. So they'll be running on things like the Microsoft HoloLens, the Magic Leap headset, and the Microsoft SDK, MR SDK range. So the idea here is that that next evolution of application interaction will be there providing the user interface for those devices. And at the moment, a lot of applications are interactive and designed for, I guess, entertainment purposes. A lot of the virtual reality stuff is enclosed and takes the focus of the user completely away. So augmented reality offers a lot of advantages over that, in that you can interact with the real world while you're also interacting with the virtual content. So our company is really about making apps that assist the human wearer. So if you're just walking down the street or something like that, you can gain immediate assistance from an artificial intelligence bot. So I guess a lot of people will have played games where you've got an AI bot that assists you in your tasks in the game. The idea here is that it would assist you in your daily life, maybe measuring the distance to something that you're walking towards, or popping up landmarks, or giving you a Skype interface while you're sitting at a bus stop, perhaps. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
I see. And when did you start the project?
We've been going for about 18 months in total, and we're trying now to get funded so that we can do it full time, because obviously it's quite an expensive area. So as we get to market with our products, we're sort of looking to get funded now.
And will you please explain in a more detailed way what is the role of blockchain in your project?
Yeah, so blockchain, I think I mentioned in our initial email conversation, a lot of the apps that are floating around at the moment are, I guess, twisting themselves around to make blockchain part of their product. So I wanted to point out in our interview that our product uses the blockchain integration for the things that blockchain is good at, that being replicating data in a cheap way globally, and also allowing cryptographic hash functions against data storage without any additional components being required. So there's another company, Factom, that do a similar thing to what we do, where we have a private blockchain and a public blockchain, and we write the actual data to the private blockchain because it's zero cost, and then we hash that data and we write the hash values to the public blockchain. So by doing that, we achieve high availability of the data, and we also have low cost. So if you compare that to something like MySQL or Microsoft SQL, it's dramatically cheaper, it's better performance, it's more available. We also use it for matchmaking. So we have an app called World One, which is just a home app for augmented reality users. And part of the experience of using that app is being able to participate with your friends at home in a shared experience. So we use the blockchain to perform matchmaking for that. So when you create an AR zone or an AR event in our application, it gets put into the Ethereum blockchain into a matchmaking queue, and then as other people join, they can read from that queue. So there's a few other quick things I'll touch on. We use it for biometric ID storage. So a few of the devices coming out have the ability to scan the retina. So we take that data, we hash that, we put that on the blockchain. The thought there is, if you're using maybe a Microsoft HoloLens at home, and you go around to a friend's house or into an office environment and they've got a different headset, provided you're still using our application, you'll be able to retrieve your profile and your personal information directly from the blockchain, because it's globally replicated and your biometric ID doesn't change. So when you log in, it'll retrieve that from the blockchain. We also do corporate licensing through the blockchain. So the tokens themselves, if a company comes along and buys an $800,000 AR solution for their factory from us, we attempt to put that purchase through the ARX tokens and give them a discount. So, instead of an 800K USD bill, we would take that down to 700K paid via ARX. So we sort of help the token value like that. So we've tried to sort of use the blockchain in ways that make sense, without
Okay, I
just
see.
for the sake of using it. Yeah.
Is it your first blockchain project for you and your team? And a few words about your team, if possible.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not my first blockchain project. I've worked on a couple of poker blockchain projects before, a Bitcoin poker project, and recently an Ethereum gambling site. I've written a few smart contracts for ICOs recently as well, because there's a huge explosion of ICOs, obviously. But the rest of my team have been mainly involved in enterprise deployments, so not as much blockchain experience. So yeah, I'll give you a quick summary. So we've got 4 people on the team at the moment, and
4?
we're expanding that. Yeah, just the 4. Mm-hmm. Yep, and we're going to expand that to 8 in the next 6 months, depending on how the pre-sale and the funding goes. But we're aiming to have 8 people on board. I think we've got a pretty good group. We've got a bit of sales, we've got a bit of development, we've got a little bit of research. Where we're going to expand into is the accounting and the marketing area, because that's a huge expense for us as a startup. And if we can bring that expense back internally, that would be a good thing for us.
I see. So tell us, what for do you need this ICO? What are the key milestones of the development of your company?
Yeah, it's really, at the moment, we need the funding to be able to focus our resources 100% on the project. And the reason is we're at a point now where we can have a beta release for the 2 products that we're running with, primarily being World 1, which is the home browser, AR browser, and then Profession, which is the workplace AR browser. We are on track to have those out by Q2 2018. But that is predicated on having a budget there for marketing and a budget there to bring a few more people on board. So it's really just a case of we need to get this funded to be able to hit milestones to deliver. Otherwise, we won't be delivering something for 3 or 4 years, and I think the market will have moved on by then. Microsoft and Apple and Google are currently putting out SDKs, and I think there's an opportunity there for the next 18 months where we can get in and create custom corporate AR solutions as well as home apps. If you sort of miss that early adopter phase, I think you'll miss out on a good part of the market. So it's to accelerate our growth, it's to bring additional staff on board, it's to get the marketing that we need to get done. The other thing too with AR, it's one of those experiential technologies. You've got to kind of see it to know what the big deal is. And so some of the budgeting is around purchasing demonstration equipment and actually traveling out and doing roadshows with government departments, law enforcement agencies, hospitals. They're going to be some of the key corporate clients, and we really want to get out in front of them with the devices and show them how it would work in their environment. So when we actually sat down with KPMG, who are a local accounting and legal firm, and did a business and marketing plan up, and when we looked at it over 5 years, because of the relatively slow uptake of AR and VR, any company that establishes themselves now and wants to be a market leader in, say, early 2019, has to have a business plan that lets them survive for at least 4 or 5 years before the revenue starts to increase significantly. So the ICO, if we achieve even say 60% of our funding targets, would let us run for that 4.5 to 5 year period of time. So
but what is the particular sum that you want to collect? Why this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've set a min cap of 3,500 ETH, which is a relatively standard min cap, and we've gone for a max cap of 50,000 ETH, which is, I think, very reasonable. I've seen 200,000 ETH targets on very small apps, but that we're not targeting that because other people are targeting similar numbers. This is purely based on around a $20 million US number that we need to hit to run for 4.5, 5 years without any serious pressures. Now, in our business plan, we aim to have the revenue picking up after about 2 years, and then 3.5 years in, it'll be ramping up significantly. So we don't expect to need that. It's just a case of, if we underfund the company, I think it puts a huge amount of pressure on staff and founders to start selling products when they're not ready yet. I think it's responsible of us, if we're operating in AR and VR, to have enough funding to run for 4.5 to 5 years, to let the market catch up, to get the products fully developed, to get out in front of some of these corporate clients. The other thing is the medical industry and the law enforcement industry, who, we really want to get police departments using our headset software, and we really want to get hospitals to pay for site licenses to deck out their hospital with AR. Now, they all have legislative requirements for adopting new technologies. So a lot of those have 18-month and 24-month lead times. So even if we go in today and wow them with a demo and get them to approve something, we might be talking 24 months before they get legislative approval to use that. So, all things considered, I think we could go for a lower target. That might seem fine for a couple of years, but then we'd be under all sorts of pressure. And so I think the business plan sort of dictates that we need that 20 million. We actually probably could use more, but that's always the way, isn't it?
Of course. Okay, I see. You already mentioned, said a few words about your tokens, but I'll ask you to tell us in more details about your tokens. What are the core benefits of them?
Sure. Yes. It's just a standard ERC20 Ethereum token. So like a lot of ICOs are doing, I guess. We have a few ideas for the token that I think a lot of startups aren't doing. So let me grab the list. I had a couple. One of the key ones is in World 1, when you create an AR zone, it's a bit like creating a game in an online server. So it starts to consume resources. So when you create an AR zone, it will consume ARX tokens. And when you buy one of our applications from the store, you'll be provided with a small number of the tokens already. So the aim there is to use them as an in-app and in-game currency, in-app and in-world currency, I should say. But secondary to that, if you, for example, are in one of our AR zones and you invite 5 of your friends, if you enable that zone using ARX tokens, you can share that paid content. So the aim there is, if you want to watch a movie on a VR app, or you want to go and share an experience with 3 friends on an AR app, only one person has to have the ARX tokens. They can then share that paid content with their friends. But realistically, it's a few things. Providing early access to our software is important. So we have a smart contract already on the Ethereum network that it checks to see if you're currently holding ARX tokens in your wallet. If you are currently holding them, it'll give you a code to put in on our website to download the beta of World 1 or Profession. So we provide early access to anyone that holds an ARX token for testing. We also allow you to purchase the software using ARX tokens. So I guess I imagine a lot of people are doing that, but we've got an arrangement with the app stores that we can issue a code on the app store that you get from our smart contract. So that's, a lot of people might say, well, how do you pay in Ethereum, or how do you pay on the Apple store in ARX? Well, you just go to our redemption smart contract and submit a license purchase, and then you get a code back, and you go to the Apple app store and put the code in. So we've got that. The other thing is the corporate sales. So we've got 2 sides to the business: is the home side, home/public side, and then the corporate licensing side, where we do custom AR apps for businesses. Those custom apps, again, will be purchased. We will quote customers in both US dollars and ARX tokens, and we'll offer them a significant discount if they pay using ARX tokens. If they don't already hold ARX tokens, they will be purchasing them from a shared pool. Now, that shared pool is made up of tokens that we provide from the foundation fund, but also home users or investors might provide. So if somebody participates in the ICO and has 1,000 tokens, then later they might come to our corporate pool and submit their tokens and put a bid price in that was above the amount that they paid for the token. And then when one of our corporate customers comes along and they need to buy 10,000 ARX tokens for their corporate license, they will buy from that pool. So if your tokens are in that pool and your bid price is currently the best bid price, you'll be able to sell your ARX tokens directly from that smart contract rather than going through an exchange or having to sell that way. So we encourage the value of the token to go up by using it actively as a licensing token.
Okay.
Yeah, a few other things. I mean, customizable skins, there's the usual things that people are probably doing where if you hold an ARX token, you can set a different skin in the game to people that don't have an ARX token. And obviously, World 1, the app itself, is a little bit like, you don't want to say it, but it's a little bit like the Pokemon Go app where there's AR content in the world geographically placed around. So the idea here is that ARX tokens can be used to interact with that paid content. So it could be anything. You could be walking past a vending machine and it might pop up an interactive experience, and if you've got tokens, you can consume those tokens there and then. We don't want to have people walking around. It's a bit of a barrier to spending if people know that anything's coming out of their credit card or coming directly out of their bank account. So if they're buying tokens and then walking around a virtual world, then it's much easier to convince them to consume the tokens. So when we have businesses advertising, I think that'll be a way that we can convince them to market. So I think consumers will be more likely to part with tokens readily than charge their credit card. So.
Okay, I see. So, but still, if something goes wrong, if you don't get enough money, do you analyze this negative scenario? How the rights of investors are protected in this case?
Yeah, exactly. So, we're sort of acutely aware of that. We've put enough funding into the business as founders that we can run the business anyway. But it will be for a shorter period of time, and it'll have a significant amount of extra pressure. So, in some ways, all of the investor capital and everything else that goes into purchasing the tokens and working with us to create agreements, that's not lost. We'll continue to run the company and develop the apps. We have a few fallback strategies that involve venture capital funds. We got approached by 3 or 4 of them during the pre-sale setup, wanting to know if we would consider taking investment for equity. And I've worked with venture capital companies before on startups and had good and bad experiences. So, we're a little bit hesitant to go down the venture capital path if we can find another way, being an ICO type method. If that doesn't sort of fund enough, we may revisit the venture capital option, but we're a little bit hesitant to give up equity. So that's another possibility. So as a founder group, I think we have access to enough capital to be able to keep this going regardless. However, I think we would probably look at selling off 5 or 10% equity to try and continue accelerating the growth. We just really don't want to get left behind. If another company comes along tomorrow with 15 million in funding, they can very likely outpace us in development. In particular, the 3D models are just so expensive. So if we want to put 3D renderings of buildings and things into our virtual environment, we have to purchase those models or create those models, and they're very expensive, and the devices are expensive. Basically everything is expensive. The all virtual reality space. So it is what it is. So we think that the investors will be protected because our direct interests are in making this company a success.
Okay. And what do you think about this ICO market in general, about its perspectives?
Look, it's interesting. I think it'll probably go through a phase of getting banned in more countries. The governments around the world will probably tighten up the regulations more and more. But I think the reality is it can't be made to go away. It's a little bit like countries banning Bitcoin. It's more likely a stepping stone to regulation, and I would suggest that they will have the knee-jerk reaction of banning things, and then they'll open it back up, but through government regulation, government monitoring. And I think the traditional financial sector are just so horrified by what's going on. That's why JP Morgan CEO is coming out saying bad things about Bitcoin, and they're seeing the huge change from venture capital and banking to open platforms and ICOs. So governments and big business and big corporate around the world are going to rush to protect their infrastructure. So I expect it to just continue to get more and more focus and more bans. But I would think within 24 months, this will die down and ease up a lot. So I think, it's actually a good opportunity for people. If certain coins or cryptos drop, it's probably not a bad time to pick some up, because long term, I don't think it's going to damage the industry long term. It's just a short term thing. But,
okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Fingers
Travis.
crossed.
So, yeah, definitely. So to sum up our interesting talk, I would ask you to tell me in 1 or 2 sentences, just in very brief, why should I invest in assistive reality?
Okay. You should invest because it's one of the most exciting firms to start up. There's a lot of companies around that are doing different products and integrating with blockchain, but I don't see too many of them that are promising to bring artificial intelligence assistance into your everyday life. And there is a huge number of people worried about AI coming and taking jobs and potentially replacing people. And I think an investment in our company is a vote for the human equation. It's a sense of belief that humanity can use technology to assist it rather than be replaced by it. And I think, realistically speaking, AI and the development of technology will go in a slightly different direction. I think we'll end up augmenting the human body. We'll probably end up with implants. We'll very likely end up with smart contact lenses. And I expect technology and AI to go in that direction rather than humanity never works again and AI does everything for us. I think it's more likely to be a combined thing. So I think, investing in our company would be a vote for that vision of the future. I don't see too many other companies out there selling that vision of the future and actively trying to create that. So I think that's why you should invest. Yeah.
Okay, that's great then, Travis. I would like to thank you once again for this interesting interview, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Alina. Thanks. You take care.
Thank you. And I remind you that my guest today was Travis Roe, CEO of Assistive Reality. And subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch more interesting interviews on ICOtalk.tv. Thank you. Bye-bye.